FDR's first 100 days in office. Roosevelt wins his election in 1932. It wasn't a total shock, as Democrats had won seats in 1930. Normally, a bad economy is bad for the current president's party in a midterm election. Roosevelt succeeds in 1932 by uniting what we'll learn later about what are sometimes called the old and the new Democrats. Those would be rural Democrats, the old Democrats, and the new Democrats, the urban Democrats. He's also a wonderful politician when it comes to using the media. That's why I chose this picture here. You see all those microphones in front of him. Roosevelt is an expert at using the media, and especially new media like radio. In his first 100 days, he establishes the gold standard for a president's first 100 days. In other words, nobody has done better. He makes 15 requests to Congress and gets 15 laws passed. On March 4th, 1933, he is inaugurated. He is sworn into office. And that same day, he asks Congress in his inauguration for the power to solve the crisis. Congress, by this point, is willing to let someone else bear the responsibility of trying to solve this Great Depression, which they've been working on for 4 years now. And there's a major majority of Democrats in Congress, so they're happy to go along with the president, who is also a Democrat. But the situation is bad. 1/4 of Americans are unemployed when Roosevelt takes office, and banks are going out of business. Unemployment, in fact, in some cities was as high as 40%. Roosevelt's first big victory, and we've read about this a little bit already, is to save the banks. On day 2 of his time in office, he orders all banks closed. That's when he declares that banking holiday. And he immediately calls Congress into session. He says, me and my staff are going to work on some legislation. We'll get back to you. On day 6, FDR's staff gives Congress a bill for the new banking laws. They call for government supervision of the banks, but also government assistance to banks. And that weak banks will have the money transferred to strong government-backed banks. Some banks are going to disappear, but the banking system is going to be stronger. On day 9, Roosevelt delivers his first fireside chat. And in that first fireside chat, he explains that the banks are safe. And as evidence to this, the very next day, for the first time since the stock market crash, Americans deposit more money in the bank than they withdraw. This banking plan sets a tone for how Roosevelt plans to fix the economy. He is going to use the government to support our economic system. He is going to maintain capitalism with government support. He is not going to replace it with something like socialism. He is not going to take over the banks like had been done in Germany and Italy. Roosevelt plans to restore and along the way reform the American economy, not drastically change it. A model of one of Roosevelt's many programs, and one of the most important, is the Tennessee Valley Authority. And this is the program that builds numerous dams in the Tennessee area. You can see them on the map here. That's going to do a lot of things. It's going to create jobs in a time when unemployment is high. It's going to help prevent flooding, so it's going to aid farmers in that region. It's also going to make these rivers easier to navigate so they can be more of a help in trade. And most importantly, it's going to create electricity for one of the poorest regions of the country and an area where electricity was still hard to come by. The downside, like many of the New Deal programs, is that this is going to be very, very expensive. Hoover, who we talked about, was very hands-off in his approach to solving the Great Depression. Roosevelt is not going to be that. Roosevelt and the government under Roosevelt are going to be very active. In fact, later the court will declare that sometimes they're too active. Roosevelt's reforms do not end the Great Depression, but the public gains the confidence that the government is helping, and that is extremely important.